Hi everyone, it's Webby and welcome to another car review. Today we're going to be having a look at the 2021 BMW X3 M40i. This is almost the top of the range in terms of X3 models. The only one that sits above it is the X3 M Competition, and that is a hell of a lot more money. So I'm basically going to talk you around the car, show you a bit of the spec on the inside and the outside. We'll obviously take you for a drive, and I'll tell you why this would be my pick of the medium-sized SUV with the performance kind of edge on it, if you like, because it's got some fairly stiff competition. You've got things like the Audi SQ5, you've got the Mercedes GLC AMG 43, Porsche Macan, and even cars like the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, although that does really sit above it in terms of price. But they're all sort of around about that sort of money and features and engine, so there's a lot of competition for this car. So sit back, enjoy a cuppa while I talk you around the new X3 M40i. So starting at the front of the car, it's got the traditional sort of M Sport styling, the lower scoops, sort of the lower front bumper. And you've got these massive kidney grills at the front as well. But on the M40i, they're in this sort of satin bronze type colour for the grills and also the fog light surrounds as well. I wasn't too sure on the colour at first, but actually it's kind of grown on me a little bit. And I don't mind it. It is one of the sort of the visual cues that sort of tell you this is the M40, not one like a 2 litre diesel or something like that. So it is nice that you've got a subtle difference between this and the sort of lower grades as well. The satin bronze theme continues around to the side with these 21-inch alloy wheels, which are standard, which I think is fantastic because BMW normally charge you a fortune for that sort of thing. You've then also got these satin bronze little grills here. You've got your M badge just to remind you that you've got the M Sport version. It does have a fairly sort of subtle body kit here at the bottom, around the sides. The mirrors are also in the satin bronze colour as well. So yeah, it's kind of subtle, but kind of you know what it is if you're looking for one. And if you know what it is, you kind of know that this is a pretty quick SUV. And coming around to the back of the car, the sporty body kit continues. So down here you've got a slightly different rear diffuser than you would on the lower models as well. You've got these really fat exhaust pipes, which look really sort of purposeful and chunky. There is actually a proper exhaust in there as well. It's not one of these sort of pretend fake ones. And you've got one either side, so yeah, if you didn't see the badge on the back of the car, just looking at the exhaust, you'd know that this is meaning business. Under the bonnet is the heart of this beast. It's a 3 litre straight 6 turbocharged petrol engine, good for 285 kilowatt and 500 newton meters of torque. And that's all driven through an 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox. And before we get stuck onto the inside of this car, I just want to ask you if you can give this video a like. If you do, it helps YouTube recommend the video to other people so it gets more views. If we get more views and likes and comments, it then gives me opportunity to get cars like this from manufacturers like BMW. So it kind of helps everybody out. So it helps the channel grow, but it helps me bring you more really good cars as well. So go ahead, smash the like button, and while you're there, don't forget to subscribe as well, because again, it helps the channel grow and bring you more really good cars. So now we've done the outside of the car, let's get stuck into the inside, and I can show you all the features and standard equipment on this new X3 M40i. I think you'll be really impressed because, as I said before earlier in the video, everything on this car is standard. So everything I talk about is you already get for your money. So yeah, let's jump inside. As soon as you jump in, you've got these really nice sporty seats. They're really comfortable, the leather's beautiful. You've got plenty of adjustment here with the electric buttons. You can even extend the under leg section there as well if you've got really long legs. They've also got memory settings as well, so you can have a couple of drivers stored in there. The front seats are heated, so it's kind of got everything you'd really want. One option you can do is actually option sort of comfort seats, which then give you heating and cooling. I like the idea of having the cooling, but I think I prefer these sport seats. It's a shame you can't get the sport seats with the cooling function, because I think that would be the best combination. But I think I'd personally stick with the sport seats. I just think they're a bit nicer and more in keeping with the character of the car. We've also got some other nice features like the Harman Kardon audio system here, which sounds superb. We've got the full length glass panoramic sunroof, which is fantastic. It's obviously got an electric internal blind, so you can keep the sun out on hot days. But it's just a really nice place. I like things like all this sort of ribbed section on the seats. It's super comfortable. And so these are the extended section for the under the legs I was talking about earlier. It's just a really nice place. And so there's the digital dashboard. You can even show things like your sat nav on there as well. And if you're using Apple CarPlay for your sat nav, it still shows the directions up on the dash, which is really impressive. So this is currently showing the wireless Apple CarPlay, because I'm actually using my phone to film with, so it's still connected to CarPlay at the same time. So it's a really nice wide screen, particularly if you go in and choose your Google Maps. You get a really great view of where you're driving or where you're going to, and directions and bits and pieces, so it's really handy. In the centre there, as usual, apart from obviously the gear stick, you've got your iDrive controllers over there. You've got buttons there for things like your parking sensors, which cameras you want to operate, and your downhill descent. Over here we've got all the buttons for the different sport modes and suspension, and you can tailor that to whatever you want. You've got your standard presets, but you can also choose individual options as well. So that's a really cool little feature too. So coming into the back of the X3, and you've got a really generous amount of space here in the back. You can actually stretch your legs out all the way under the front of the driver's seat, so it actually makes for a much more relaxing journey. There's also plenty of headroom despite having this panoramic sunroof, so that's really nice as well. In the middle here we've got air vents for the rear passengers. We've also got controls for the rear climate control as well, which is actually quite nice. And then down the bottom we've got two USB-C charging points. USB-C is the faster version of USB charging points. So that means you can keep your phone or your iPad charged up nice and easily while you're driving. Particularly good if you've got kids in the back. We've then also got the obligatory armrest, a couple of cup holders there in the middle. Pretty standard fare these days. Obviously ISOFIX child points for the car seats as well. So you don't miss out anything. It's a really good sort of package. Come round to the back of the car. The tailgate's electric, as you'd probably expect in a car like this, and it opens up to reveal a really decent amount of space, which is very usable because it's quite square. There's no wheel arch intrusions, so it's very easy to sort of load maximum amount of capacity in here. Folding the rear seats down is actually quite easy. You've got a little lever either side which you can just pull, and then they drop down, or that side would if my camera gear box wasn't behind the seat. You get the idea. So we're going to take this X3 for a drive, find some twisty bits and have some fun. But before we get there, I've just put the car in comfort mode to start with, just until we find some interesting corners. And this is kind of the mode you just use for everyday driving. Just pootling down the shop sort of work, or take the kids to school. And considering it rides on 21-inch wheels, it's actually pretty comfortable. Obviously if you find a road that's less than perfect, it's a little bit bumpy, but on a whole, considering, like I say, it's got those wheels, it's got sport suspension, it's a pretty comfortable car to drive. And it's also very quiet as well. I mean, I've got the sunroof open. If you close it, it gets even quieter. So it is a very, very nice sort of place to be. You certainly wouldn't complain if you were driving this every day. And having that lovely straight six turbocharged petrol engine under the bonnet, it will cruise along quite happily, just do its normal thing. But you know you've got plenty of power in reserve that if you suddenly want to switch into sport mode and have a bit of fun around the twisties, that it will do that for you as well. So it is a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde car. I don't know how much more power you'd really want in a car like this, to be honest. I know BMW's got the X3 M competition, which is 375 kilowatt. So yeah, I don't know how much more power you'd need than this, because to me 285 kilowatt is more than enough in a car this size. So I can't imagine what an X3 M competition would be like. It would just be insane. But I also imagine that would be a little bit bumpier on the roads as well, because obviously this is designed for a bit of everyday use. Just happens to have a pretty powerful engine under the bonnet. But it's nice to have all those creature comforts I was talking about. I love this sunroof. The fact that it's literally full length sunroof is lovely. The head-up display is superb. The nice big infotainment screen there on the dash. It takes a bit of getting used to once you find where stuff is. But yeah, once you've got the hang of it, it's pretty easy. And like most modern entertainment systems, you only tend to use so many functions anyway, a bit like you do with your mobile phone. They can do so much more, but you only tend to use certain functions. But yeah, as a day-to-day drive, it's really nice to drive. The seats are superb, they're really supportive. I like the fact that you can actually extend the bolster underneath your legs. So if you are someone that's got particularly long legs, you get a bit more underleg support than you would in some other cars. And one feature I did find, so with this infotainment system, a lot of the menus are sort of a bit buried. If you've had a BMW before, you'll be quite familiar with where to find things, what folder or sub-menu you have to look in to find something. But if you're new to the brand, it's probably a little bit a bit of guesswork as to sort of finding what you want. But yeah, so once you're used to it, it's not too bad at all. But the nice thing you can do, you've got these buttons just across the centre console, 1 to 7. In the olden days, they used to be where you'd store your radio stations, FM and AM and that type of thing. But BMW have long had the feeling of like, well, how many radio stations do you need to listen to? So basically they're shortcut buttons, and you can assign them to anything you want. You could have a predetermined sat-nav address, you could store favourite phone numbers, or you can actually put a shortcut to a particular menu that you might use fairly regularly. So I was trying to adjust the speakers the other day, just the bass and the treble, that type of thing. So I actually assigned one of the favourite buttons to the sound menu for the speakers. So it means that every time if I wanted to go in to adjust it, I haven't got to keep going deep into the menus to try and find it. I can literally just press the button that I've assigned it to, and straight away I've got my sound controls come up. I do like little touches like that, but that's not a new thing for BMW, and that's in all their models. It's just something I thought I'd point out, that yeah, if you've never driven a BMW before, it's actually quite a nice feature. So as I was saying, this car is bog standard straight out of the box, nothing's an extra, apart from the metallic paint. You've even got this fantastic Harman Kardon sound system, which in years gone by, things like that, the sunroof, the 21-inch wheels, you used to have to pay a lot of money to get all those extras. So it's actually nice that BMW put expensive options like that as standard now. I guess you could argue that for the money they're asking for this car, you'd expect them to be included anyway, but yeah, in the past they haven't been shy on charging for nice extras like that. Alright, that's enough of comfort mode. I've popped in Sport Plus now. So hopefully soon we'll find some nice twisty bits where we can have a bit of fun and hear a few pops out of the exhaust. Yeah, that's very urgent when you put your foot on the loud pedal. This would actually be quite good fun living in Germany and going down the autobahns. Because here in Australia you're scared to go over the speed limit because yeah, you lose your licence pretty quick in this car. But thankfully the brakes are up to the job of slowing you down as well. Say, just going around those twisty corners, the amount of grip was pretty impressive. I know it's a four-wheel drive and it's got big wide tyres, but it's still a big car to throw around. So yeah, it is impressive. So coming to the price of the X3 M40i, because I'm sure that's what you were waiting for, $113,900 plus stamp duty, registration and dealer delivery. So you're into sort of the 120s for something like this, which sounds a lot of money for a medium-sized SUV, but it's actually in keeping with all the other competition that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. They're all going to be around the same sort of ballpark figure. So it's not sort of expensive or anything like that. And then when you look at what you actually get for all that money, as I keep saying, everything on this car is standard. You don't have to sort of plunge too far into the options list to get this car. Normally you'd pay for things like the 21-inch wheels, the sunroof, stuff like that. But BMW have included it all as standard, and I think that's a really good way of doing things. So, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. That will really help the channel grow. As I said earlier in the video, the more the channel grows, the more chances I've got of getting cars like this from manufacturers like BMW. Obviously, I want to say a huge thanks to BMW Australia for lending me the car. They've let me have the car for a week, so I've really had a chance to get to know the car really well. I haven't really found any bits I don't like, because normally when you drive a car that you haven't driven before, you find bits, oh, I don't really like that. There were a couple of bits that took me a while to get my head around. Learning how to sort of use all the menus on the infotainment system was a little bit of a struggle. Until I remembered you could use the 1 to 7 buttons on the dash to store sort of shortcuts to menus and mobile phone numbers and sat-nav shortcuts and things like that. So that was probably my only gripe, I would say, about the whole experience of driving this car. The rest of it has been really positive. I've had a great week with the car, I've really enjoyed it. Got to give the keys back later today, so that'll be a sad occasion, I suppose. Jump back in my Golf, but that's okay. There's going to be more content coming soon with some other manufacturers as well. I'll be back in a BMW soon, in about a month or so's time, because I've got some more content with BMW coming up. So stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more car reviews that are coming up. Going to say, I've got some really interesting cars coming your way, which I'm quite looking forward to myself. So yeah, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next one.